Hello, people. This week I read No Country for Old Men. I went into this a bit hesitant because I think I've read a Cormac McCarthy book before and I didn't particularly enjoy it. But being a YouTuber, that makes me a professional. So I didn't let any biases whatsoever, bias me towards this book. I read it clean palate. I can do that. I have that ability. So, this is the book I believe that the movie was based on. I have seen the movie, so I had sort of an inkling as to what was going to happen. Bits change, obviously. It's not a one-to-one translation, so there's still elements of surprise. If you have seen the movie and are interested in the book, and of course, vice versa. If you read this book and then become interested in the movie, there will be some variance there. First, I will say, we have to compare them a little bit. And between this book and the movie, and Clockwork Orange book and its movie, I think these two have done the best at, giving you what the book gives you. Not where, some say the book is better or some say the book would be different. These are very close in vibe, I would say. The motions of what happens isn't that complicated. We have a guy who finds a bunch of money at a obvious crime scene, and then a guy who's hunting the guy who had the money, and then a sheriff who's sort of hunting both. That's the sort of overall arc of the story, but it's the delivery. It's the delivery that it makes this book absolutely wonderful. It really is. There is violence. There is violence, but it isn't gruesome. It isn't, I would say, glorified in a kind of, some books make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, I suppose. But it's there, so maybe not for kids. I guess children. I think if I were 14, I'd have been fine reading this. The impact is way more psychological than visceral. That's what I'd say. Yeah, that seems fair. Now, in the last book I read, he did a sort of a first person. I didn't like it. This one is kind of different, and it works extremely, extremely well. We start, and I believe it's parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, etc. Every part will give you a kind of a monologue from your sheriff. What is this? Bell. Sheriff Bell. These are fantastic. These are sometimes tangentially related to the story. They're definitely character building. But there is there's like a very strong, I would say, Southern Texas energy to these. And by that I mean, what is it? LBJ. LBJ was said to do this a lot, where he'd give you these sort of Texas down-to-earth stories. They have a way of being very familiar very quickly. So in just hearing the story from a Texas person or a good storyteller in this sort of style, you feel like a down-to-earthness, a family vibe. Like, it doesn't take long in the story before you feel like this is an uncle or someone you know or someone you want to know. That's the kind of vibe these sort of Texas stories give you. He's just, I was pulling over a guy one time, and I didn't think much of it, but then I decided maybe I'll give them a stop, give these boys a talking to. And I seen a flash of a hand and a shotgun moving, and I slammed the brakes real hard. The car all twisted to the side, and I hit back in my chair just as soon as the glass started flying. You get very sucked into these stories very quickly. They're very, very fun. They're very nice additions to the story. And it changes the vibe, the overall vibe of the story. So that when you're into the meat of it, I would say, we now have a more typical first person-ish. I say ish because it isn't exactly first person. It is carrying that storyteller vibe, but now with a different energy. That energy then becomes very momentous, I would say. So, in a lot of first persons, it's, I grabbed my pen and I unpopped it and I looked at the ink and made sure I had enough. This I don't like, not generally, because in a first person, I'm not thinking about these things when I just start writing. Or I do, and it should tell me something about that character. Here, because of this sort of beginning monologue, and that it's not quite, right? So there's still a lot of the descriptors, but it isn't just an internal from this person's thoughts. It's clearly now a storyteller, not our sheriff, not any character. That's sort of our author, narrator, telling this story now. But keeping sort of the structure, and what we end up with is a vibe that makes it like, imagine I get this pen and then I start writing. And this is the last thing I'm going to write because in a minute I'm going to get, beamed into space by aliens. Or, death is going to come. Or I'm going to win the lottery. And it's the last time I ever used this pen. Now, that event in my life makes this minute object, this singular action, I turn a doorknob, I flip the lights on. They grow in importance. The same way in a lot of old histories we read, like, this is the day the King of England stepped foot on the shores of France. Right? It turns into this historic, momentous thing, but just with individual lives. And he carries this intensity throughout the rest of the story. And it fills you up. It's very, very good. Very intense. It makes for a more intense story. Very genius, really. Very, very cool. So we start with, I believe, the sheriff's monologue. And then we go to a man named Moth. Llewellyn Moth. Just a hunter. Now, we get no introduction to this. Well, no, wait. No, our intro is Chigurh, Anton Chigurh, killing a sheriff's deputy. Pulled over, handcuffed, taken to the station, and we go through the procedure. Arms around the neck, just the full, and you're like, it's unexpected. Then we cut to our hunter. So I'm going to talk about the hunter first, then Anton, and then I'll talk about the sheriff. We get no real backstory on this guy. He looked through these high-powered German binoculars. He grabbed his H&K 32 caliber rifle, looked down the, whatever kind of optical zoom scope he had, etc. Right? We surround this person that we don't know with these technical sounding words, and it gives you an impression of that person without saying anything. It's very, very smartly done. So without saying anything, I get a sense that this person, is intelligent, is understanding of his job. He knew he was upwind. He knew to move slowly. He knew to hunt his prey in a certain way. But we also get a vibe like things haven't always gone his way or don't always go his way. He's not superhero energy vibe, right? He doesn't mess up in hunting, I think, a deer or something. He's in the right spot. The sun's behind him. The wind is going the right way. But something, the animal senses that he's looking at it. And he's, annoyed. The thing just sort of goes a little awry. All just vibe. All just sort of beams into your head. Nothing overly stated. This character just sort of floats into your consciousness. Very, very well done. In looking out over this, I say, sort of West Texas vista, he sees, what's apparently drug deal gone bad. There are multiple cars. There are multiple dead people. And he goes and he looks at it. He investigates. He sees a guy asking for water. He's like, I ain't got no water. He's very matter of fact about it. And this is another part. He is taking in the scene bloody as it is and not being overwhelmed by that. And that tells you something about him too. You don't know anything and the author doesn't tell you anything, but you're picking all this up just on actions and descriptions. He understands what he's looking at. He understands this is apparently drug dealers, a bunch of Mexican drug dealers who have shot each other to pieces. He understands that there's very little he can do for this person. Not overwhelmed by blood. It tells you something like who is the type of person who would not be overwhelmed by the blood or focused on saving the person. Again, these are subtle, but they're telling things so that when he sees the briefcase sitting there, he knows what it is. He knows what it is. You know what it is. I know what it is. What would it be? Something highly valuable. That's the only reason these drug dealers would even be out in the middle of nowhere. And he opens it, and it is what he thinks it is. It's a pile of cash, right? And in that moment, you understand why he's doing this. Without any backstory. You don't know his situation. You don't know if he's in debt or what his home life is like. You understand that it's not bad. And it's not great, being the lotto. You just piles of money and no worries at all. Could always be better. You understand that he's not a bad person. He didn't do anything to any of these gentlemen. They did it to themselves. He's also not a vulture. He's not picking at their pockets, looking for loose change. Here's this just one big pile. This one thing to take away from here. And again, he's not a good person. A good person, in a story sense, would only care about making sure everyone's alive or dead, helping whoever is still alive. A good person would not concern themselves with, this is a criminal, etc., etc., what danger I'm in. A good person would turn in the money. I have nothing to do with that. Story-wise, right? These are heroic traits. But he's not a bad person. He hadn't shot anyone. He's a hunter, independent. He's going to make his own way in the world. So you understand now there's a chance, and he's going to reach for that chance. And that's what he does. He reaches, and he takes this money. And that's it. He, you would think, essentially seals his fate. One way or the other. His fate is now attached. He's sealed. Now, obviously, if it were me, if it were probably you, I'd open the thing up and check for tracking devices. He doesn't do this. He's not a superhero. He's not a super trained operative who knows how to function perfectly in every sense of the word. You also then see the genius of introducing the killer first, because us as readers now are aware, the same as he would be, in different ways, right? We've seen what the problem is going to be like. He is vaguely aware that you cannot leave a crime scene like that. That, it's not a one-to-one, I had this money, you took it. It's clearly some kind of an operation. There are multiple men involved. Those types of people will not let you leave with their money. They'll hunt you as long as it takes. They have no other reason not to. They have plenty of illegal money to do it. So we're both aware now at the same time of this menace coming towards us. He doesn't react as well as he should have. He should have looked for a tracker. Did. X, Y, Z, etc., etc. Makes just the whole thing now, we're in the pocket. We're with him. It's very fun. His real problems start when I believe he goes back later that day to the crime scene. I think it's to see if he can bring the guy water. Now again, you're like, you can't go back, bro. You can't go back. But the other part of him is like, I don't want to leave that man dying of thirst. And then you're like, well, why don't you call it in? Well, I didn't call it in because I took all the money. Back and forth we go, right? In any case, he goes back. Of course, people are there hunting him. Of course, he can't go back the way he came. Of course, they get his truck. They'll get his registration. They'll know who he is. He's locked in now. That was his major mistake, I suppose. You clearly need to get the money and leave. Or get the money, wait a day or two, act normal, and then leave. That one's a lot harder. People roaming around town, wolves can smell it on you, right? I think I'd just get the money and go. If I were going to do it. I might not. Who needs the headache? Our story will take place in parts. Part 1, 2, 3. In the parts, of course, sections on the cop following this bloody trail. Anton Chigurh making this bloody trail. And our Moss, moving about in the way he feels is best. Anton here is your shining moment, so to speak. It's Gollum in the Hobbit, right? There's these times in literature where a thing just gets made that just shines brighter than other things around it. And I feel like Anton is one of those. He's just this almost Dracula-like menace that just emerges in this story, and everything around him feeds so well. He's built perfectly. He is what you end up finding is he's not judgment. He's like a force of nature. So you build your house, you build a seawall, you build a city, and it's fine, and everything's going. And at some point, the world, life, nature will test that in some way. A city will flood, a hurricane will hit, the ocean will rise, and then we're going to test how well you designed it, how well it drains, how well the buildings hold up, how well is your foundation. If there's somewhere lacking, you'll crumble, right? You built the bridge for 100-mile-an-hour winds, but now 200-mile-an-hour winds are hitting it, and the weakness that didn't exist then exists now at this stage. That's what he is to these people in this story. He is that check on their lives, because he is so consistent about what he's going to do. He has taken a job to retrieve this money for his personal belief system. He cannot, what does he say? I don't have enemies. I don't allow such things. If there's someone in some way who could inhibit him, a la, I saw him, here's a description, here's an easier way to track him, he will kill you with no hesitation. If that other problem's in his way, he will kill it. He will move it. He will steal. And he moves with absolute certainty about himself. So there's no giveaway. There's no step that falters whatsoever. It's pure genius. It's pure genius. And like I said, the experience of reading this book builds that out almost more than I can say. It's very fun as a read. So we have, I believe he's getting gas. And I think some part of him, he asks questions. So some part of him doesn't want the person who he asked those questions to tell other people, any officers or anything of this sort. But that guy, again, he's a down-to-earth kind of guy. And so I believe your Chigurh is unsure. And so he leaves it up to fate, more or less. Flips the coin, says, call it. And the guy's like, I'm not going to call it. He says, you are going to call it. I don't know what I'm betting. Call it. And he pressures him. Dude calls heads. Heads comes up. He gets to live. He didn't know this going in. But it's just sort of an example. 1. He doesn't see life as haphazard. He sees it as the moment. He sees right now as an aggregation of your choices. That this was your plan, and that you didn't think it through as much is your fault, or will work for you, or will work against you, and he's going to find out what that is. So that this guy running this convenience store ends up in his path isn't happenstance to him. It isn't even fate. It's an outcome of the effort that man put into living. And that his life came down to that coin flip is now some part action of the item, right? That there's some force to the item, maybe? What does he say? What does he go? This coin's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And now I'm here. Now call it. Right? He sees all these things, all these momentous actions building to this moment. Very cool scene. I wonder if inadvertently they stole that line for Thanos, because it's a wicked line. Wicked. He carries this consistency with everyone else he meets. He let that guy live. He didn't kill him. Other people he does kill. What is it? It's like a weird, different plane of existence where he's seeing more in items than just, again, happenstance. This didn't come to exist by accident. It was made. Someone made it. And you chose it. It became part of your life. It's going to infect, it's going to, what does he say? Anything can become an instrument. They pass from person to person, and then one day there's a judgment. One day the potential of this item is going to affect me. Or not. It'll affect someone else. Someone else who finds it. It ends up on the floor and someone trips, etc. It's just all of this. He's built it into his now way of looking at existence. Very cool. One of the persons involved in this drug deal hires a guy to go get Anton, or the money. He wants the mess cleaned up, as he says. So the guy wants the money and wants to kill Anton. And that guy knows going in this is a problem, but he's willing to take the deal. We get a great, sort of Anton tracking the tracker. A guy has found it by this time and removed it, so it leads to a dead end. He then doesn't take the tracker, he leaves it and waits in the lobby, knowing whoever anyone sends will be tracking the tracker as well. He sees Wells, he recognizes him, knows that's who it is, follows him up. He's going to handle this now too. And that's what he does. The guy sees him, he understands he's caught. They go to a room, and he tries his hand. His hand being, what is it? I'm a day trader now. I can give you 14,000. I'll leave. You'll leave with the money. No muss, no fuss. And to Anton, he's like, that is, what does he say? That's a good deal. That's a good payday. It's just in the wrong currency. And you're like, there it is. You tried your hand. You tried it up against this thing that doesn't falter. It found you lacking. And that's it. Anton asks him, what does he say? If the rule of your life led you to this moment, of what use was the rule? And the guy, doesn't know what he's talking about. I was like, you're crazy. Just kill me and get it over with. And Anton's disappointed. He thought there was more to this guy. Meaning, you have then a moment to explain yourself to him. And some people would go, well, what's the point in that? But you see, the Anton's point of view is you're not explaining it to him or the cosmos. You're explaining it to yourself. You see this person, and Anton is in search of deeper truths that money, life and death, caught, not caught, Texas, the Philippines, place no longer matters to him. He's in his mind elevated. He sees at some point, and this is a cool loop around. He says, I killed a Mexican who talked to me bad. His fault. He talked to me bad. I let it go. He talked to me bad. I motioned for him to come outside. He came outside. I put him in a sleeper hold, but I actually broke his neck. Essentially, he didn't say it this way. That's what happened. His friends didn't know he was dead. He thought he was passed out. But I killed him. That was his mistake. It's not mine. He said what he said. I let it go. He egged it on. I said, you want to up the stakes? He upped the stakes. He lost, essentially. Then he says he let himself be taken into custody by a deputy. This is our first scene in the book, now seen from a different angle. And he said, a bit arrogant on my part, a bit of vanity. He says, I wanted to see if I could extricate myself through willpower alone. Where he goes, I'm sure that's possible. That if I just had the willpower, the chains would release. The man wouldn't see me. I could walk, He's like, and you're reading this, you're like, one, he's crazy. He's crazy, or, you clearly see him on like a different plane of existence from the world. It's an unforgettable character. It really is. It really is fantastic. But he kills that guy. He kills Wells. Wells had tried to make a deal with R. Moss. He found him because he's an idiot and easy to find. He tried to make a deal like, just give me the money and you're out of this. And he wouldn't give him the money. So he then calls Moss because he's trying to be like, I think I might be over my head here. He calls Moss, and it's Anton who answers. And then we have another great conversation wherein Anton's not going to let him out. You took the money. You've sealed your fate. That's done. I'm going to kill you. And of course the guy who we find out now had served in Vietnam, and he has this amount of, wherewithal about him, takes offense. I'm not going to go down easy like that. Maybe I'll kill you. This kind of bravado. He gives him a choice, right? He's like, you give me the money and I'll just kill you and I'll forget about her. And he's like, maybe I'll kill you instead. This kind of vibe. He dies off screen, so to speak. We don't see the death of him. All this time with a character. We've seen him. We've seen him interact with his wife, interact with other people. All this time with this person. To kill him off stage, fantastic choice. It's unexpected. It keeps you off kilter. Fabulous choice. He dies off stage. Him and some random girl he was talking to, because Anton doesn't play games whatsoever. So you would think the story ends there, but it carries on. And not an afterwards. It's full story now. And it carries on to Anton meeting his lady, Moss's lady. She just came back from a funeral of her mom. Doesn't faze Anton. her pleading won't faze Anton. And he flat tells, she's like, what do you, I don't have the money. He's like, I'm not here for the money. I'm here to, pay a debt. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, your man had a chance. Your man had a chance to buy you out of this, and he did not. And I'm just here to collect. And you could almost hear him saying, like, he's on the verge of being sad about it. Like, it's unfair to you. I get it. But he isn't sad. He's consistent. This is what he is. And he kills her too. Right? We have a back and forth. He doesn't get anything that he wants from her. Any sort of nugget of truth. But he is this consistent monster just moving through. He said, if you don't give me the money, I will kill you and her. The guy says, bring it on. He failed. And he put you in on this too. In his weird cosmic strain, he says, you got to go too. And she has to go, and die she dies. You're like, whoa. And the fact that it happened after sort of a main character had died gives this story this other feeling, this like the evil remains kind of feeling. Fantastic. And then you sort of think about it after a few days. Because it hadn't, it's not a long book. I read it a couple of days ago. And it hits you in these weird waves where you're like, if he'd have got the money, of course, check it for trackers. Leave the tracker. Get the money right then. Go get her right then. And just leave. Leave into Canada. Go to Europe. Go anywhere. Away. You might have been all right. But that's their inconsistency. They didn't have it in them. She had ties that she in her mind couldn't sever. He didn't want to sever her from those ties. And when it's checked against Anton's consistency, you see the failure. That's why, what is it? He shouldn't have ever got involved. If he weren't going to make the decisions that needed to be made, he shouldn't have got involved. And you get the weird vibe. Again, it's just a vibe. The author doesn't say this, but you get a weird vibe in that we do this in our lives sometimes, wherein half in, half out, and you kind of ruin both. Whereas if you'd have committed to one or the other, be it a job, a relationship, etc., that this lack of commitment is what causes your downfall. And later we'll find excuses, but excuses don't matter. The failure still exists. It's very, very cool. And then we're left with our Sheriff Bell, who is following this. Again, this is a fun character. Very fun. He says, what does he say? He's looking at the phone at one point. He's like, go ahead and ring. I'm here. It rings. He's a local sheriff. It's going to ring all the time. And you can hear him having this conversation with apparently a normal old lady with cat stuck in a tree. And what does he say? Just give it a while. I think he'll come down. And she says something you don't hear. And then he's like, well, I haven't seen many dead cats in trees. Meaning they ain't going to starve up there. Just fun little moments like this intercut with him trying to deal with this trail of death that's just following these two people. And it's impacting him sort of the way it would a human being. And he's starting to have... He's doing the gut check. He's doing the gut check. He understands from what he's looking at, from his experience. I think he's served in wars as well, all the way up to now. He starts to understand from his experience, I'm dealing with something at a level that's probably beyond me. It's probably beyond even anything I want to even try and check. And by the end of this, after I think the lady dies, he just retires. He's like, I'm done with this. And then he tells a story about how he got his war medals and that it was essentially for running, for leaving his men to die and running and saving his own life. And that he sees sort of like he lives with that, the guilt of that he maybe should have died with his men, or not even die or live, but that he was a coward. And that he can't shake the shame of it. His wife doesn't blame him. His father doesn't blame him. He blames himself. And this cowardice is rising again in him, telling him, leave from this monster. You could put the work in and catch him, but what are you going to do when you're face to face? And some part of him wants to challenge that cowardice and say, I'll catch him. And then the other part's like, no, we're not doing this. We ran before, we'll run again. And he does, and he lives, and the evil lives as well. And you see sort of like, again, not a judgment on the one who kills or the one who runs, the coward. He is consistent with what he is. He will fight. He will try. And when it gets too hot, he will run and save himself. You can call that cowardice. You can call it whatever you want. That is who he is. Same as he was as sheriff. When it's little old ladies and cats and trees, he's there. He won't, hide from criminals who shoot at him. He'll fight back. He did his job admirably. But when the next level came, he ran again. And he lives with his wife and a small amount of debt, but his pension. And he'll live out and he'll ride his horses and he'll have a wife that loves him. And inside he'll have this turmoil, wherein our Anton doesn't. He had the turmoil and came to grips with it. What does he say? I met myself. Our sheriff will meet himself. We all kind of do this, right? I guess, now that I'm thinking about it. You come to terms with who and what you are, and you can be content with that. Our sheriff hasn't got there yet. Our sheriff is upset that he's a coward. But it's got him alive. And the ones who died are inconsistent. And that's the way it is. Even the lady, the wife of Moss, you say, well, she's an innocent victim. That's not how Anton sees it. And even I believe she says it. She's like, I always knew. I always kind of knew. Meaning, I saw him, I liked him, and I picked him. And I knew, that whatever is good or bad is going to happen, it's going to be attached to this man. And she accepted that when she picked him. And it was good when it was good. And then it went bad. But the way he sees it, kind of the way she sees it, those were her choices. No one forced that man on her. She could have picked anyone else. She could have stayed alone. She didn't. She didn't, and now Anton's here. And that's that. And I feel like it just sort of ends. No let down after that. The cop puts his head on the pillow and he's like, it's still out there. And he's like, I know. Head on pillow. Fantastic book. What is it? I have a list called New Classics. That is stuff not written in the 16 and 1700s. I'm putting this in the New Classics. It's absolutely wonderful. And I've told you what happens, and if you've seen the movie, you know what happens, and it's still an experience to read. And I'm going to assume I'm going to try it later, obviously. On a reread, that same experience can happen. Like a good movie. You re-experience these things sometimes. It's 100% a fantastic experience. Fantastic characters. I loved it. I loved every second of it. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. That is No Country for Old Men. And these are your beloved ads. These are my books. I wrote them. I don't think any of my books are as heavy as this, I would say. That's fair to say. They're different. You can get them on Kindle Unlimited and have kind of a Spotify-ish situation on your hands wherein I get some money. You can straight buy them. You can just watch these videos. You can like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. We are an unpressurized YouTube channel. Okay, people. I will see you all next week.